Welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. That greatest of the Old Testament gospel prophets, Isaiah, from the lofty peak of his inspired vision, peered far down the centuries yet to come to see the face of Jesus and the glories it would bring. Among the insights he gave us of that greatest of earth's blessings is this jewel from Isaiah 12:3, "Therefore with joy shall ye draw water from the wells of salvation." First, a word or two of explanation. Abraham dug wells, but that's not the kind of water supply this verse means. While it could perhaps describe a coping and tiled sidewalls, it means something more like a spring, a fountain of what we would call living water, meaning there is an inexhaustible supply. There are broad references in this passage to the deep inner peace and calmness of spirit that are the natural fruit of a saved and sanctified life. But there is another aspect of the benefits brought by drinking from the wells of salvation. That's the topic of today's broadcast, and it lies like this. The text paints a pretty picture for us of daily life in the villages of Isaiah's time. Listen with your imagination's ears, and you will hear again the ringing laughter of the shepherds as they linger by the watering troughs all day long, while the maidens come from their tents with their vessels to be filled with a cool, clear liquid. The village well served as a community meeting place in the ancient world, where folks talked about the age-old subjects, the weather, stories about which pretty lass had caught the eye of which young lad, how the crops are looking this season, what clothes to take on the next trip to Jerusalem for an upcoming festival. We could paraphrase Isaiah's text like this: "As the dwellers in the land at their village springs, so ye, the weary travelers at the eye of the desert, will draw with gladness. So we have this joy." Along with the profound and limitless blessings conferred on our souls by the grace of God when we drink of the water of His free salvation, there is the blessing of peaceful companionship. We humans were created to live in a world where we are not alone, and our all-wise Father put in every one of us the potential to delight in pleasant association with our fellows. All too often unhappy and dismal experiences have soured that richest of human communion, but salvation is meant to be a means to bring it back and make it sweet. It must have been pleasant to live in an Israelite village in Bible times where everyone around you knew about and believed in the same God you did and loved and kept the same law and moral code, who shared alike the joys of weddings, the sorrow of funerals, and reaped harvests, had barn raisings together. It is today meant to be pleasant for Christians to live and worship together. Church is a place where believers are taught to and actually do forgive one another, care for one another, find themselves as the years pass by more and more deeply loving each other. It is joy, drawn directly from the holy wells of salvation, to be able to put aside past failures and grievances, casting them forever into the sea of God's forgetfulness. It's joy to hold your dearest friend's first child in your arms, to share the delight on a young mother's face, the beaming smile of a happy father as he watches his baby boy. It is joy beyond any language to describe when life has brought us our bitterest moments, death of a loved one, business reverses, perhaps some serious failure on our own part, when we need it most to have a dear and trusted friend put an arm around our shoulders and simply say, "I love you." The world without God can be a lonely place indeed, friend. The hardest funerals are those with the fewest people present, and if the mourners are few because those most in grief are too embittered and alienated to share their misery, so much the worse. Salvation brings us the sweetest, most blessed community relationships possible in this world of time. The Lord wants them to be a soothing balm to your soul as well. Have you talked to Him today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.
God's Word speaks truth. God's Word speaks life. And God's Word speaks to us today. Hi, I'm Pastor John Mehrens of the Granby Christian Church. Each week we explore God's Word together on In the Shadow of Your Wings, a radio broadcast on KNEO. Tune in each Saturday at 6:45 p.m. to hear the show. And if you ever miss it, you can always view the archive online at kneo.org. We also have the program available as a podcast as well, so you can listen anytime, anywhere. It's available from Sky High Podcast Network. I invite you to check out the show and learn more about our incredible God and how He cares for you. You can trust Him, you can depend on Him, and you can rest in the shadow of His wings.